Well, hey there, party people. Welcome back to the NFM podcast. This podcast today is sponsored by Shifted Supplements. So thank you, Shifted Supplements, for sponsoring this podcast today. Jarrell, how are we doing today?
I'm great. I just want to say all of your Nashville came out in that intro.
Yeah, it sure did.
You did a great job.
Your
you did
country,
a really good job.
like it was like, hey there, Nashville. I was like,
hey,
man,
y'all.
who is this person?
How y'all doing?
Yeah, what's goody?
What's goody?
Yeah, what's good?
I've never heard that.
No,
It's all goody.
You sure?
All of it's goody. Yeah.
It sounds like me and
Goody
my wife
gum
right
drop.
I
now.
love the way you just twisted, like turned into. It's all goody. Like, oh, okay, Sam.
Everything's goody.
So, another big black guy sitting at the table today.
Love
That would be me.
My guy.
we got
Right.
chiseled chocolate and
chiseled chocolate. I don't know what we're gonna call him yet because
Right
the
here.
chiseled chocolate is taken.
we got two chiseled chocolate.
You gotta come up with something.
Little,
A chiseled chocolate Twix bar. It's like
Yeah.
a Twix.
Twix.
Yeah.
You get
There
two.
you go. 2 for 1.
Yeah, you get two at the same time.
I like
who's
it.
the left and who's the right Twix?
I would probably be the right.
Oh, why
Okay.
you gotta be right?
It just feels right.
I don't know if
Here
I
we
agree
go.
with that. you get 2 right ones in it in a package.
Well, they both taste great. So.
For you guys that
There
don't
you
know,
go.
this is my guys, Charles Ruck. Man, I got so much I want to talk to you about. It's been a minute since we actually had a
it's been a
chance
minute.
to catch up. But before we jump into the good stuff, we got to go with what pays the bills. We got to shout out our people, Freshie, and we're going to the basket of debate, sponsored by Freshie. Freshie is a tequila seltzer that is actually pretty delicious, and it has real tequila in there. So, Charles, as we get started, I'm gonna let you pick your poison. So you just got to pick one question out of there, read it out loud,
It's a good
and we'll
icebreaker.
kind of debate. It's a great icebreaker for us here.
Got you. Superpowers. Would you prefer to fly or be invisible, and why?
Ooh.
You take it.
Damn, that's a
Taking
good
it?
one.
You take
That
it
is
first.
a good one.
That's a good one.
Because I already
That is a good
know.
one.
I've been
You know?
asked. I've asked this question, and I've been asked this question.
I'm
I always have it on
invisible.
mine.
I'm going with invisible. I'm going with invisible all day. You know what kind of weapon I could be if I was invisible?
That is true.
I was gonna ask
Invisible?
That is
why.
true.
Yeah,
But flying, you can be anywhere.
but you can get shot down.
That's true.
Damn, that was a very good point.
Yeah,
Shit.
yeah.
Yeah.
You won that one.
So
yeah.
my answer always used to be fly because that would be so fun, and you can go
So you get
anywhere
shot
still.
down.
But someone brought that point up to me one time.
And
It's
killed
like,
it.
yeah, if you're in the wrong airspace,
Yeah.
they don't care.
And if
So-
I'm invisible, I still can fly whenever I want. I just get on the plane. Nobody knows I'm there. Just chilling.
But if you can fly, you can also
You ain't
land
gotta
yourself,
pay.
right? Like,
Just
can you
chilling.
land correctly? So,
Just
like,
chilling.
if
I mean,
I
You
like,
thought this through.
No, this is my
You
first time.
thought
I'm
this
just
through.
saying I'm invisible. That means I can literally be anywhere I want to be. Nobody knows I'm
That's a
there.
good point.
that's a little creepy.
Yeah, it is a little creepy. I didn't want to say it
Oh, no,
there,
it's
but
very-
that's
I about to say,
that's
no, it's
my,
very-
that's my other reason.
But
why.
that's
There's a
how you
reason why you wanna be
could
invisible.
I'm in
get
the
some
corner
business
somewhere. It's
deals.
like, okay,
Yeah,
I'm
no,
in
there's
the
a reason
corner,
why you
yeah.
want to be invisible.
Yeah, you can listen
Yeah.
to it. You listen to everything, you know.
But getting shot down, I ain't never thought. That was
Yeah, but
horrible.
I mean, when you see the
Horrible,
jets
bro.
coming, though, like if
It's a wrap.
there's a threat, you're gonna see it coming. So you go down, and then you're known as the person that can fly, the only human being that can fly, and then you're
Nah, you're
famous
not
for
coming
being
down.
this
birds
human.
get shot down all the
You're not
time.
coming
Okay,
down.
yeah, you're right.
In America, you're not coming down.
No, they get
Those
shot
jets
down.
pull up is a wrap, bro. A person
Yeah.
flying, they see that, they're shooting you down. 100%.
Quick.
100%. Those
Okay, yeah,
Boom,
that's fair.
Let's get out of here.
That's
See you
fair.
later.
Yeah,
That's
you are
fair.
out.
Yeah, we can't have that kind of
Yeah.
stuff going around here.
Yeah, you wouldn't make it up
We
very
need to figure out
far.
if there's any
Have
more.
you guys
y'all.
heard about the UFO stuff going on? Like they're like,
I know, and
I think
so
it's all
crazy.
smoke and mirrors.
I don't know
I
anything
think it's
about
smoke and
it.
mirrors.
I think it's crazy
I
that
just know-
nobody's talking about it.
I don't think anybody should talk about it.
I don't think anybody
Okay,
knows.
We definitely should talk about
What's
it.
the, what's the point?
This is the podcast subject now.
I
No,
feel like there's a reason why it just started coming out. But
Yeah,
at the
it's
same
smoke and
time,
mirrors.
we are not paying attention to it.
Yeah.
They know we distracted. So they're just like, we're going to throw this out there.
I think
And
that
they
is
can't
the
say
distraction.
we didn't say anything.
I think that is the distraction, though, to get you thinking about UFOs. And because what does it matter? If there's aliens here, we've known there's aliens here. Fuck, are we gonna do? I'm sorry. What are we gonna do about it? There's nothing we can do about it. It's not my job. It's the military job at this point. Like,
Do
if
you
an alien-
think that
if
there
an
are
alien
aliens
comes to your
here?
door tonight, what are you doing?
I mean,
Nothing.
freaking out.
Right. There's nothing
I
you
don't
can pass
know.
out, right?
110% she's gonna
There's
do
nothing.
nothing.
You passing out. There's nothing you can do. We walk out right now. You just chilling. I heard you.
Absolutely.
guys
I
talking
wouldn't even
about
know
it.
what I would be looking at.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, my point is how
I
we're
mean,
talking about it is
it's a-
like
it's a
nothing
valid
is
fact.
going nowhere.
Yeah.
But I still would want to know.
Okay, though.
I don't understand why we just
What have you done since you've known the information?
You've
been looking
at
for
the
him?
sky a lot when I
You
walk
look at the
out.
sky a lot?
Yeah, but
Looking up, like, just
do I
making
see
sure?
anything?
And if you do, what happens?
Nothing. I mean, you can't do anything. I mean, you're right. You can't.
Well, wait,
do absolutely nothing.
what are they saying though? Are they saying that like aliens are here?
Yeah,
for
it's
sure?
like they confirmed that.
No,
Yeah,
they confirmed that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So are they like walking around on Earth
Now
too,
that-
or
Hey,
crawling,
that
or
far.
I don't know.
invisible
I
on
mean,
Earth?
That's
You
it
know?
might be type situation. That's not my department.
Yeah,
Now, if they
I don't
want
think
to
it's
come work out,
anybody's.
then we can do that. We can get into
Yeah,
some training.
hey,
So if an
you wanna
alien
get in
asks
shape?
you to work out, you train them.
Let's get it.
Then I care about the aliens.
I want to know what they like. How strong are
'Cause we
they?
can't have any unhealthy
Yeah, I feel
aliens.
Right?
out
Like
here.
that's gonna give me all the information
What
I
if he
need.
said, write me a meal plan?
I'm gonna say, what does your diet consist of? Right?
Let's log
I
your
need to make
food
sure it's
for a
not
week.
me. Like you eat people? Like what do you eat, bro? Like
Yeah, what if he just
I got
smiles
Well,
my
at
lean
you?
protein right there.
yeah,
Every time you ask that question, he just smiles at
I'm
you.
gonna start stretching. Make sure the hamstring's still good,
You
so I
better
can go ahead
take
and get
off.
them out of here.
Yeah,
What do you
Yeah,
guys
you
think
better
aliens
take
look
off.
like though? Like if you picture one, do you picture like the classic like big eyes, big?
And I think they're in the
Bald head.
ocean, honestly.
I
think the stuff in
definitely
the ocean
second
is
that.
not.
Good one.
It's
I like
not
that.
The ocean
from-
is so
I like
big.
that one.
We don't
Yeah.
know.
If I'm being honest with you,
Yeah,
I think the stuff in the ocean is not necessarily of this planet because we don't even know what's all down there. Stuff, and the stuff that we
That's very
found,
true.
I can get on
the
board.
stuff
with
that
that
we found, like for real, is like, bro, why?
And we've
Well,
never
you know,
got
we've
to the very
only
bottom.
discovered
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
we've discovered more about space. Apparently, I don't know.
Then we have the
can't-
ocean.
Yeah,
That
makes
exactly.
sense,
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've heard that.
That's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah,
That is
And it's right
cool.
here,
Yeah.
but it's not.
you can't get there though.
And those poor people in the submarine
Ooh,
recently.
I
Were
knew
they
she
poor
was gonna
people?
go that route. I knew
Were
she
they
was
Well,
gonna
no,
go that
I
route.
meant that in a like
I
they
knew
they
she was heading
you
that
know
way.
didn't make it
Either way.
out, but
Either way, I think that was
well,
just
one guy didn't even want to go. It was his dad who made him go.
That's the only poor person that I have
That's
sympathy
so.
for.
I mean, can you
I
imagine being
knew
the
he was
dad,
going down this
knowing
rabbit
that
hole.
you're gonna like not make it,
Yeah,
and
dads
like,
do stupid stuff,
oh,
though.
dang it, I
do that all
knew
the
my
time.
son didn't want to
My
do
thing
this.
is, how important is it to you to see the Titanic in a round circle?
Yeah,
Clearly, it was important.
Like literally,
to them.
you're
if
not
if
touching
it has not
It's
been,
literally a round circle.
I was talking about this with my roommates the other day, and it would be definitely super cool if it was something that had been tested and done enough to the point like flying, right? Like
Yeah, bro had a
airplanes at
PlayStation
first,
controller.
getting in an airplane, getting in
Yeah,
the sky,
yeah,
like
yeah.
Bro,
I
that's,
was about to
that's
say-
when I would have got off.
Yeah, I'm about
When
to
I
say.
saw him pull up the PlayStation, like, hey man, open the door, let me off, bro.
You
I'm
have
yeah,
not
a
but
going
if
controller.
you've
nowhere.
done
The
it and there's
PlayStation
like
controller?
hundreds of people do it a day and
Don't
like
care.
flying, then yes, I would totally be down.
You would
but
if
it's
you
not
got
at
into
that
the
point.
cockpit, you flying with Delta, and my man pulls out a PlayStation
Well, no.
controller. You gonna ride? You gonna take the flight?
With the
If
cord and
hundreds
all.
of
Like the-
people,
yeah,
that's
like-
basically what they do. They
Nah.
have buttons and then
Right.
they sit there.
I'm
PlayStation
absolutely
controller.
not okay with that.
Is it really a PlayStation
Legit.
controller? Like
PlayStation
they
controller.
took a PS2
Legit.
controller.
Legit
That
PlayStation
is
controller.
that is
Look at it.
100.
Okay, yeah, that's
and
I'm
10%
cool.
not. I'm not.
disturbing.
Get me
That-
off here,
yeah.
bro. We're not hitting XXY on
No.
me, and then nah.
Absolutely
Nah,
not.
we're not doing that. I'm
Yeah.
sorry, y'all.
My
We
controllers
have,
went out a lot when I was a kid.
Yes, and
And
yeah,
so
or the
that is
battery go,
not-
bro. It's yeah.
That
It's
is
not-
not,
no,
the
not
situation you
sustainable.
want to be in at
Um,
all.
I feel like
bro,
if we were all
let's
sitting around smoking weed.
we've definitely
Really
this definitely
good.
feels like a weed conversation.
100%.
We
We
got to
all-
get back on track.
So we
with
all
my
took
man.
edible before this
All right.
What you don't know.
The edible is sponsored by. No, I'm just kidding. We did not take an edible, y'all.
Run Nutrition has Delta 9.
We
Just
wanna-
FYI,
there you go.
put out
There we
We're
go.
gonna get
Great
into
segue.
all the stuff that you do. Well, you want to be Charles? You want to be Ruck? What do you want? Where do you want to start?
Man, you can call me whatever.
We'll call you Ruck. I like
All
Ruck.
right.
It just
Okay, whatever. I'm
it just
dad.
Sounds a little
She
better.
said I'm down.
Personally, I like to start at the origin, bro. And so again, we've known each other for a while.
Right.
And from what I've heard, right, you have a great story. From what I've heard, you were a hell of an athlete, right? And I say were, I think you still are a hell of an athlete,
Right.
but you know, we're talking football. Player.
Yeah,
You're a hell of a football player. There are very few people that I've heard about since I've come to Tennessee,
Right.
like continuously. And you were one of those people like, yo, if the accident doesn't happen, he is. So we're gonna pause there because I want you to tell your own story, bro.
Right.
Hell of a high school athlete. You finish the rest.
Yeah, so football like ran in my family. So it was one of those things like at the very beginning, I didn't have a choice. Like my dad played for Georgia Tech, man. My uncle, he was a big college football coach. So, you know, before I walked, I had a football in my hand. So you know, the goal was to always, you know, get a scholarship. You know, I didn't come from a family with money. My parents were split up, so I was with a single mother. And so the goal was at least get a scholarship to get out of my hometown.
Mm-hmm.
And so my senior year, I ended up making that happen. I was supposed to go to a D1 school, but because of the ACT score that ended me up at Cumberland U.
Jeez, man, I got the same stories. I ended up here, but go ahead. Yeah.
Dude, it happens to a lot of us.
So I actually was supposed to go to UConn.
Yeah.
In Connecticut. If you know anything about UConn, it's like Vanderbilt.
Right.
So they were anyway, it's not about me. They didn't take my
the crazy thing is
the
they
offer,
don't even tell you how important it is
because
you
the
gotta
ACT?
get it.
Because I passed it late. Yeah, I passed my ACT late. And so my first time I took it, it wasn't high enough to get into UConn. And so I took it again, still wasn't high enough. And they were like, they gave it to somebody else. Then I passed it the third time. By that time, a coach actually from MT was at my high school. I was working out, and he was just asking about, he was recruiting someone else. He was like, yo, where's that kid going? He looks good. My coach told him, he was like, bet. Came to the track, talked to me. He was like, hey, I'm from Middle Tennessee State. Love to have you come up. Coach told me your story. I had never even heard of Murfreesboro. My first time in Murfreesboro was my first time in Murfreesboro. Never took a visit, anything like, yeah. But anyway, this isn't about me, bro. This is about you.
Like listening to your story, though.
But go ahead.
Let me ask you a question real quick, though. With your ACT score, when did you find out about it? Because for me, that was one of the things that I felt like was like the biggest disconnect. Like nobody ever talked about it until I started getting, scholarships and schools started looking at me. And then all of a sudden, the pressure's on. They got me in tutors, and it's too late at that point.
So it's different. It's levels to it. That's what I found out, right? Like we were told you just need to make a 17 in order to get qualified. Right. In order to qualify. That's real. You need a 17 to qualify. That don't have anything to do with UConn, though, right? And UConn is going to be dependent on school. UConn, Florida, Vandy. Right. You're not getting in with a 17, right? They don't care how good of an athlete you are. Absolutely. We need you to get here. Like the bigger schools is going to be at least a 23, 24 to get you in, right? Right. If you do get in, they do let you in, and you're probably going to sit out for that first year because you're going to be like a prop, what they call a prop 48, which is like you just sit for the year, you lose a year eligibility, and you go to like remedial classes. Okay. I didn't want to lose a year. Two, I'm not remedial. I know that, so I'm not going to take that route. So I didn't find out the depth until I was already in it. So they were like, no, you need a 24 to get in, and I was like,
yep, that's what it was.
So we got to go back.
I was like, well,
you're like kind of finding that out as you go. Like
it's the process.
That sucks.
Because you only need a 17 to get a scholarship, right? Yeah. So to qualify, you don't need it. So that's what the coach is telling you. You need a 17. Well, because they're not thinking about what school, unless you're just a huge, you know what I mean? And if you're a huge recruit, they're going to, trust me, they'll make it happen.
Right.
But and I feel like that's what I got told a lot. You know, like as I was going through the process, it was like, man, you're good enough. Like, don't even worry about it. Everything's going to work out. And then when it came down to it, and you get ready to sign, they're like, oh shit, we need to put you in tutoring. And I'm like, yo, it's too late.
That's so not fair because a kid being that age is going to be totally influenced by whatever coach is saying, whatever parents are saying. And don't worry about it. Rely on your athletic ability.
That at all.
But it's like,
I'm not paying. I'm trying to make sure I'm the best I can be on the
field.
Absolutely. That's really what my focus is.
Good. Yeah. Well, but I mean, like, if a school like UConn, you have to have a certain score, and like no one's telling you that, like someone should have told you all that, because you can still go out there and be your best.
They
but
do when it's too late,
right? They told you that when they told you, we're going to give you a scholarship to Charles. Hey, thank you, but But I'm sorry, bro. Go ahead. You ended up at Cumberland U.
Yeah, so I ended up going to Cumberland U, and I'm gonna be honest with you, that was one of the things I was just so angry going into it. I felt like I was supposed to go to a bigger school, and I felt like I got shafted, and kind of like what we was talking about. I did. So I'm not gonna lie, when I first got there, I got in trouble a couple times, and then it was one night we were in camp, and I hadn't saw my mom in a while. So my mom has a mental disability. So I want to go home and see her. And so I had another football player with me. I remember it was right after practice, and it was raining really, really hard. And it was one of those situations, like, honestly, I should have never got on the road. So I start heading on the interstate, heading home. And I remember a car in front of me braking, and me like trying to like slam on my brakes, and lost complete control. And so we flew into the median onto the oncoming traffic. And I see the tractor trailer heading at us. God. And so for me, it was one of those situations, like, it was one of those moments where you're like, man, this is it. Like, I'm not making it out of this. Wow. And I remember I was so calm through it. And I remember hearing another football player screaming. And I was so calm, because it's like,
it's what it is.
You can't, I remember telling myself, I was like, man, I just don't want this to hurt. And so, you know, it hit, we blacked out. And so then I remember like waking up on the side of the road, and I came to, and it was a lady. I could hear her talking. She was like, I guess above me. And so I remember spitting out my teeth. And so when I spit out my teeth, I was like, I remember saying like, I fucked up. And so I blacked out again. And so when I blacked out again, the next time that I woke up, I was actually in the helicopter. And so now I woke up, I'm in a helicopter. I can hear them like talking, you know, them talking about my blood pressure and all this and all that. And I was like, oh shit, I made it this far. Right. Like, just, stay calm, like, you know, try to get your blood pressure and everything down. And it's so crazy, like when you're going through that, all the things that kind of like run through your head. And so I remember, and then I blacked out again on the helicopter. And when I woke up, my mom and my grandmother was at the hospital. And so, yeah, it took a year. I ended up, I broke my jaw, broke my teeth. I ended up having to eat through a straw for, it was over 6 weeks. I ended up losing over 100 pounds. Had to learn to talk again. And I was in and out of surgery for a year.
Wow.
And so it's one of those situations where I'm like, you know, I worked my ass off to get out of my hometown. Like, now I'm stuck here in a worse situation I left in. And so I went through depression. I went through a lot of depression through that. And so MTSU actually recruited me in high school. And I remember coming to my recruiting trip, and I remember telling I think my brother, somebody in my family took me to the recruiting trip. I remember telling, I was like, man, I would never come here. That's when MTSU was like, there's straight fields everywhere. And I remember I was going to another school later on that day that I was more excited about. And so I completely just kind of like blew off the recruiting trip. And Coach Kersey was the running back coach. Coach Stockstill, them just got here. So he hit me up, and he asked me if I was interested. I was like, hell yeah. I'm like, you know what I'm saying? I ain't got no options at this point. Right. So yeah, I'm like, definitely. So, you know, I went through some training, try to get back on my feet. And then when I got to MTSU, I failed the physical twice because of the car wreck. I was out for so long, they was afraid it caused, like, you know, brain damage and stuff like that. So they wouldn't put me back on the field. Yeah. And then I met Coach Beasley at that time, and, you know, he heard my story. You know, he was one of the top trainers in town for athletes. So he took me under his wing and started, you know, training me and get me back in that football mindset or whatever. So he ended up giving me some tryouts at Atlanta Combine. So I ended up going up there and got to play football a little bit after that. So okay. And then it came to a point with football, man. I was so burnt out on the journey to get to where I was. Jeez. And that's where it was for me. I was like so burnt out. And I'm like, yo, even if I made it to the league at this point, what do I really even have left? And so I was at that place where I didn't really know what to do. And so that around that time was when I met Brandon Curry. And we just started out working out. And I remember when we first started working out, you know, people come and get his picture and autograph. I knew nothing about bodybuilding. Yeah. Like absolutely nothing about bodybuilding. So I didn't understand. I was like, why are they getting his picture?
I take a picture with you, bro.
Yeah, like what? I think I even remember asking him, and he just laughed or something.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
And so I didn't get it. And so, you know, him and some other people kept telling me, you know, you need to compete. You need to compete. And I remember I was like, hell nah. Like, you know, Speedo. I'm like, and in my head, I'm thinking about my boys back home. I'm like, boy, they're going to have a field day with this one. Man. Like, they're going to have a field day with this one. And so I was, you know, I said no for a while. And then around that time when Men Physique came out. And so, you know, they came out with the boy shorts. I was like,
I can do the shorts. I
was like, you know what?
I can do the boy shorts.
I can throw some shorts on.
It's like going to the beach.
You know
I can do that. Yeah.
I can do that. And so Brandon's show, that's when Brandon was having his show. And his show was my very first show. And I did it, and, you know, and I won. And then my career I tell people, man, I came in at the perfect time because that's right when social media started hitting. And that's right when I started. So, you know, by my third or fourth show, you know, I signed my big contract with competing. And so like nowadays that doesn't happen. Right. And I do just think that, you know, I was blessed to come in right at that time, at the right time where, you know, social media was kind of, you know, changing the sport. And so I ended up signing my first contract. It was with Lone Star, which was a big company at that time. And immediately they moved me to Atlanta. And so I was in Atlanta for 2 years, and I was just traveling as an athlete. And I was just going to expos and doing stuff like that. And that's really honestly where the supplement side of it really got into me. Cause like I was around, you know, the top athletes, but at the same time I was around the biggest owners in the game. And so, you know, as an athlete, I'm sitting there watching, you know, athletes getting a check from him. And I'm like, I want to be him.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I want to write checks instead of get one. And so that's when I started paying attention to, you know, kind of how the industry was working. And then I just fell in love with supplements too. Like the whole fact of, you know, watching the development of, you know, creating a supplement, you know, thinking of something and creating it, and then, you know, people enjoying it.
So let's pause there so we can get to that part, right? So football player end up getting injured, started training, and you find a way to kind of still nurture that athlete or that competitive side of you. Now you're traveling as an athlete with, you know, different brands, different supplement companies at different expos. Now, eventually you want to create your own. What was that process like? And when did you decide, hey, I'm going to dial back from being in front as much and go behind the scenes? What was that? Talk about that process.
Mm-hmm.
So that was, I was with Concrete. I was signed to 2 big companies through the early part of my career, and Concrete was the second one. And man, they treated me absolutely amazing. Like, you know, they kept me in magazines. They, you know, kept me like on banners and stuff at, you know, some of the biggest expos like the Olympia, the Arnold. They, you know, they paid me well. They actually were a really good sponsor for me. But it was like one of those things for me. It's like, yo, you know, I just had that realization, like, you know, if I get hurt or something happens, like, then what? Like, you know, what happens after this?
So did you still have a fear of getting hurt? Was that like a legit concern? Or do you think it was like a little bit, would PTSD be the right term? I don't know if
for
PTSD
sure
would be the right term. Like,
absolutely.
I think that definitely can apply.
Yeah, definitely. You know, the car wreck, you know, that changed a lot for me. You know, one, and I, you know, as an athlete, you know, especially as a good athlete and being young, I mean, you think you're invincible.
Yep.
Like, you really do. Like, you really think you're invincible. And so that car wreck, like, woke me up that, yo, you're not. And, you know, and that's what I realized, you know, from that moment on is like, you know, anything can happen at any point, you know, and it can be completely out of your control. And so for me as an athlete, you know, competing, you know, even though things were really, really good, I knew I needed to start thinking about the future, because, you know, I know I wasn't going to compete forever, and I knew, you know, one good injury, I was done competing, or, you know, something happened.
How do you because I feel like, and Sam, feel free to jump in. I'm sorry. No,
I'm so immersed in this story.
How do you manage that part of you? Because I think our superpower as athletes, or, you know, as men in general, honestly, we're being honest, like especially younger men, there's a sense of invincibility that you just walk around with. There's an era of it, right?
It is.
And I think that's our superpower, especially as athletes. It's like, yo, he can't touch me. He can't touch me. I don't care who he is. He can't, like,
I think there's power in that mindset.
There's power in
that. It is,
right?
100%.
How did you manage understanding, this could end any moment? I'm actually not invincible, to, okay, I still need to be able to push myself like I am invincible. How do you manage that mentally? What's your kind of mind state? Because you don't want to not push enough, but you also know I can't push too much, because I do have limits.
That question all the time. Absolutely. That's a great question.
Yeah. And, you know, for me, it's honestly faith. You know, I have to have the understanding that, you know, whatever happens is supposed to happen. And, you know, that's the biggest thing about it, is because, you know, there's certain areas and certain things that happen in my life that if it didn't go that direction, which, see, I might not have understood at the time, you know, I wouldn't be where I'm at today.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so you can't have fear of going into anything. You just got to know, like, you know, whatever's going to happen, it's meant to be.
Do you, or did you ever play the what if game? Like, man, if I don't get hurt, I'm probably XYZ right now. Or has it always been, have you always had that kind of faith to where it's like, all right, that because me personally, I had a hard time, like, letting football go. I didn't watch football.
Yeah.
I was depressed. It was like, man, I gave my whole life. And I talked to my wife about this. It's like most people don't understand what it feels like to have one goal your whole life and give everything to that one goal.
Absolutely.
That's why when you see a guy lose the Super Bowl, he's bawling his eyes out. This 300-pound man, he's like, I've gave my whole life to this, and it didn't happen, right? And so I guess my question to you is, do you still, or did you ever play that what if game, a comparison game of, man, I could still be, because you're still gonna live the majority of your life as a non-athlete anyway, as a civilian. Even if you make it to the league, you play 10 years, you're 30 years old. You're 30 years old, you come back out and you're doing whatever you're doing now, right? Yeah. So, or is it just, have you always had that faith to where it's like, yo, I'm where I'm supposed to be, and this was just God's plan the whole time?
I'll be honest with you. Like I said, I grew up, with a single mother, and she was on disability, so I never had the time to play the what if game. I had to move forward on whatever it is I was going to do for survival mode. And so that's really how I looked at it. Football didn't pan out. All right, what's next? We got to figure it out. We got to figure it out quick. And so it was one of those things I really never played the what if game, because like I said, I had to figure out what I was going to do and start moving towards that and just head down, keep going. But I will say, the love of football, I missed. Like, I didn't watch football, I think, for 2 or 3 years after I got done playing. I couldn't watch a game. Yeah. Couldn't go to a game. I didn't want to hear you talk about football. I didn't want no part of it. So the love of it, I mean, you got to sit and think about it. You've been playing football since you was 5 years old. That was a hard breakup. You know what I'm saying?
Very hard breakup.
Like, you know what I'm saying? It took a lot.
Yeah, she won.
Yeah, man. She won.
That's the worst.
You know
when you break up and she gets better. You're like,
and I mean, man. You don't want to watch her pictures, look at her pictures and stuff all the time. You want nothing to do with it. Yeah. So, for about 2 or 3 years, I didn't fool with it. I didn't watch football. I didn't want to be around anybody to play football. I didn't want to hear about it or anything like that. And then, eventually, it went away. Yeah, but as far as the what if game, like I said, I don't really think I ever really had time to really sit back and be like, oh man, what if? Like, nah, it's back to the grind. You got to figure out what you got to do and make it happen. So, I never really got a chance to really do that. Yeah.
Okay, let's jump into where you are now. So you initially just started off with your own supplement, right? And that was a pre-workout.
Yeah. I was gonna ask what your first supplement was that you made.
And it was called.
It was called Ruck. And it's so crazy because I started out with the one supplement, and which now I've learned, because when it comes to manufacturing, you have no control over absolutely anything. And so I remember I was going to launch it at the Flex Lewis Classic. So hyped, super excited, pre-workout. So the manufacturing company sends it, and it has no label. So it's literally a white container.
A white container.
And it's literally like a couple of days before the show. So we're not gonna be able to get labels made. And I remember us writing pre-Ruck on it. And I was like, yo, this is embarrassing. Yeah. Like, what? Like, they're gonna think I made this in the kitchen.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Straight, that's what it looked like. Yeah. I mean, I told myself, I was like, man, I would have bought it.
Yeah, if it's me, I wouldn't.
There's no way.
Like, you wrote that on there? Like, nah, I don't know what's in there. Yeah, I don't know what's in there.
And so we ended up doing the show, and man, we ended up down there selling out. So I was like, all right, this might actually work out. Yeah. Like, if they're buying it, ain't got no label.
Wait till I get these labels.
My handwriting's terrible. So I know that would impress y'all.
Baby.
And so we did, man. And it's funny because even now, I'll still get people that will send me a picture of that white bottle with Ruck on it where they bought it back in the day. And so it's cool to see that. But yeah, and then, from there, it kind of it really just kind of took off. And obviously we went through our battles through through the growing years with it. But that was kind of my little signal. I felt like from God, yo, you gonna make it. You all right. Yeah, you need to be. I got you on this. Yeah. So that's kind of how it started out.
And then you grew that from just a pre-workout to a complete line of supplements to a store.
Yeah.
What was that process like?
So I'll be honest with you, the store wasn't part of the plan right now. That was something that kind of fell on our lap. Because we were traveling, me and my wife, we was actually traveling, selling just the products, growing the line around the country, going in different stores, we landed, some GNC stores and different stores like that. And we enjoy traveling. So it was kind of like one of those things that we was kind of just focused on that part of it. And so then I ended up getting a phone call from my accountant. He was like, hey, I want to throw this out there and see what you think about it. He's like, something's about to go for sale. He's like, I just want to know if you're interested. And man, I'll be honest with you. As soon as he said strong body, I was like, man, run the numbers. If it's straight, I'm in. Because like people don't know the backstory of Strong Body. Strong Body was actually one back in the day. That was the store everybody went to. Everybody just went and hung out after the gym because it was like the only supplement store in Murfreesboro.
Okay.
And so that's actually where I got my first meal plan for my very first show. Brian Maben, he was a coach. He was the one that made meal plans for everybody in the store. And so when Brandon and them taught me into like doing the show, Brian was the one that, rolled out the meal plan. So I was going to check-ins and stuff inside of Strong Body. And, he really pushed me because it was, even that first show, there was moments where I just couldn't wrap my head around competing. I'll be honest with you. I couldn't wrap my head around it. So, I'll be honest, I bullshitted for, a few months. I remember I kept going to check-ins. And I remember the last one I went to where I really kind of like locked in was he was like, I'm be honest with you, because he knew I was bullshitting. He was like, if you come to the next check-in and you haven't changed, he was like, I'm done with you. He was like, this ain't cut out for everybody. And so that competitive part,
it was
part.
That
was it. Like
you may not be built for this, bro.
It clicked. And so when it instantly clicked, man, it was game over. And that's why I went in. So, Strong Body had it had a special place to me. So when he said Strong Body, I was like, yo, I feel like that's the right move.
Yeah.
And so we end up opening that. And then I was a regional manager for Goals for 7 years. And so we end up opening up a smoothie bar / supplement store inside of Goals too a few months later. And we got like a lot of big announcements coming
Breaking
up.
News.
Oh yeah, I was about to say
that's my air horn.
I was about to say we got a lot of stuff that's about to be dropped over the next 6 weeks that I really can't speak about. But one of those things is kind of part of that story too. Just kind of how things came full circle.
Yeah.
And so I always look at it like, when
if we guess, will you tell us if we right or not?
Absolutely not. That was good though. That was good,
question, man. We like we like to engage and just see.
Not about to get
like
me in trouble with my team. I asked before I came.
Just nod if we're right. Just say or take a sip of water if we're right.
Be over here thirsty, mouth dry. That is good. That's really good. But that gives y'all a reason to have me back in 6 weeks.
Let's go.
So, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, we come back in 6 weeks and we talk about
style.
the whole thing.
I like
you know
it.
What I'm saying? So
absolutely.
I'll lay it all out for you. But
thank you for coming and talking about your story. That is so compelling. I mean, wow.
That.
From what you went through in the car wreck, right smack dab at that point in your life where you are about to take off with something you've been working so hard at.
Yeah.
That's just like, I'd be depressed a lot. I mean, there's a statistic out there when athletes like Jarrell is talking about, like you guys are talking about with football and things, you get an injury that puts you out of the game. I mean, people commit suicide, and it's a very big deal. And people who aren't athletes don't understand that. I didn't grow up like you guys as an athlete, but
absolutely
reading that statistic and then being a trainer and meeting athletes who grew up as athletes or, are professional athletes, whatever. I mean, it's just been a big reality check for me to know that I can't imagine, but I can. It's just like, it's hard. So to be where you're at today is incredible because it could have gone one way or another, and you went
110%.
one way and you really took it. And faith, that's I mean,
it.
It's a great story.
That's the key. That's definitely the key. And that's one of the things, athletes, mental health is huge in sports, and people don't really talk about it.
Yeah, I don't think we and I'm guilty, bro. Like, I'm not a let's sit down and talk feelings type of guy. You know what I mean? Like, and it's also, I think a big part of it is because of the way we're groomed.
Absolutely.
Right? You hear, like, especially in sports or military or anything like that. Like, whenever you're doing something, like, you don't get an opinion, you do what you're told. It's suffer in silence. Is
suck it up.
Right? you injured or you hurt. Because if you're injured, you know what I
because
mean?
sometimes that's motivating,
Right.
you know, and you get better. But
are you injured or are you hurt?
Yes, but it flips something in your mind to say that because we don't have a chance to talk about feelings. My feelings to Charles. Hey, I need you to make a play right now, bro. You bullshit. That's how we talk to each other.
Right.
I need to get your shit together.
So now when we enter in regular life, if I come to you and say the same thing, you're like, "Why are you talking to me?"
Like,
but it's just
you gonna back up right now.
Right. You see? But I can say it to him. He'd be like, "Bet, all right, you know what I mean?"
Yeah.
And we just wired a little differently. So the whole feelings, we gotta kind of relearn.
Well, on the other side of that, like if you're sensitive like I am, there's also like if you're being straightforward, you're not necessarily being a mean person, you know, like, and that's something people have to learn too, you know, like it's not always like,
no, I'm just direct. I have that with my clients, right?
Yeah.
Like I'm a jokester. I love to laugh and play.
Right.
But when I turn it off, I talk to you directly. It's like, what's wrong with you? Why do you have an attitude? Nothing. I just need you to focus right now. I need you to lock in. And it's not time for that, right? It's, you got to I need to come direct, right?
I need to come to a session with you because that's like I think my Achilles heel as a trainer. I'm like
part of it too. Like we're so used to like having a lock in when we need a lock in.
Yeah,
and, you know that's one of the things. Yeah, like locking in. And when
we know how to. Like we're some of the funniest people, right? If you walk into the locker room, like just like these people are crazy.
Oh yeah, I bet.
These are people are nuts. But when it's time, when it's go time, it's like you see the flip switch,
right?
And I think we just kind of mastered that art of being able to let go, which is why they party the way we party, right?
Right.
We're locked in the whole time.
Yeah.
Right?
Y'all both
we're locked in.
should consider writing a book about that right there.
I actually
because that could be talked about more.
Why would you give it to both of us? Now we got to compete against each other.
Oh, dang. I forgot about that.
Who's going to be better?
I'll write the first half.
You both write one.
I got you.
I'll write the first half. You get the second half.
Hey, we got to jump into a new segment that is sponsored by Stretch Zone Franklin, which is called Stretch Your Intellect. And these are just random facts that we're going to throw out here. We got 2 random facts that we're going to throw out here and see if you guys know. You can say yes or no. Yeah.
You go first.
You want me to go first?
Yeah.
Yeah. So mine is I actually did know. Did you know that honey never spoils? Archaeologists have found pots of honey in ancient Egypt tombs that are 3,000 years old and are still perfectly edible. Now, I don't know that I would have ate that if I knew it was 3,000 years old. I don't know if I would have tasted it. But
I'm the kind of person that would.
I was about to say, I don't mean to be stereotypical, but I guarantee you tasted was probably a white person. They were like,
I'm not going to disagree with you.
Let's just see. Black people be like,
I literally just admitted it.
3,000 years now.
Dude, you give us a week old.
Yeah, black people, we'll play around with expiration dates, but like we're really strict with our like, get that up out of here. I actually didn't know that.
That's good. I think I knew that, but it's still super dope to know that.
Yeah,
which makes sense as to why it like can stay out after you open it.
Yeah, right? It'll solidify, right? Like but if you put it in warm water, it'll go back to being honey. So that's why, like, my wife likes to throw that. Again, also, expiration dates. My wife would throw it. It was like, no, the honey's still good. Just put in some warm water. She's like, yeah, no, I'm not doing that.
But now they make all kinds of honey too, like where it's like different flavors, and it gets really complicated for me.
And then there's honeys that like are hallucinogens, right? Like, so how do you? Yeah, like you can eat honey and it can take you like
a lot of sense.
Like, yeah, like there's honeys that get you.
You can do it with mushrooms.
There's honeys that get some honey for men as well, like that.
There you go.
So you don't know what kind of honey you're getting if you're just in a random Egyptian tomb. Yeah, like it's some. I'm telling you, so you don't know. Like, so if you're a dude, you this honey in the middle of Egypt. Now you walking around for the rest of the day, and they're like, you don't know what's going on.
You back there for a week.
You don't know what's going on out here, bro. Like, what's happening, right?
Wow.
We took a left turn. I'm sorry, guys.
Learned a whole lot about honey today. Okay.
Sam,
you got more on there?
What is your Stretch Zone random fact?
I actually saw a flash of it before we started, and it said flamingos. So here it goes.
Wow. I'm sorry.
Did you write the word woo? Like woo. Okay. Here we go. Can't. Did you know that a group of flamingos is called a flamboyance? Seriously? Like,
I'm not even commenting to this.
Wait,
flamboyant?
Like, isn't that another term for like out there,
I'm
like
not,
eccentric.
I'm not even going.
Okay.
Well, oh
okay,
my God,
I want to let
that's
you
so
take that
cool.
part.
I
Yeah.
just
Y'all ain't
connected a lot of
California.
dots.
Yeah, that's why I said I want to let Sal. I'm gonna let Sal handle that part.
When
I'm
these-
gonna
there's more.
I'm gonna let Sal handle
When
that
these
one.
beautiful birds come together, they are called a flamboyance of flamingos. Yes, queen. Like, I love that. That's why they stand so fabulous.
that
So
explains everything,
flamboyant.
right?
I love it.
That was
Where are my
amazing.
flamboyant
Explains
flamingos at?
Everything.
That was
Am I-
absolutely amazing.
I want my own flamboyance.
My brother Charles, it's been great having you on,
Man, I appreciate y'all having me for real.
Before we close out, man, is there any one thing that you want the people to know, whether it's a random fact about you, whether it's some inspiration? What's one thing you want to leave the people with? And also make sure you tell them that where they can find you on social and if they ever want to connect or where the story is, man, all the stuff.
Absolutely. You know, the one thing I always tell people is, you know, kind of like what I talked about today. No matter what you go through, keep pushing forward. You know, sometimes it doesn't look like what you're expecting it to look like, but that doesn't mean that God's not working. So, you know, that's the biggest thing is, you know, to keep pushing forward. Because, you know, if you really believe in something and it's really your purpose, it'll come true 110%.
I love that. Where can people find you?
IG, I am Charles Rucker. Facebook, Charles Rucker. And then, like I said, we have 2 stores in Murfreesboro, 833 Memorial Boulevard. And then the other smoothie bar is in Goes Gym, Old Fort Parkway. And then rucknutrition.com.
Right on.
You gonna close us out, Savvy Sav?
Sure, I will do that. What did you say earlier? Goody?
It's goody, baby.
Goody.
It's goody. We've had a great goody time today. Thank you guys so much for joining us on the NFM podcast. This is Sav and your boy
I am the Jarrell Webb.
signing out.
See y'all.